G'day, legends. Welcome to the Pot Noodle on Easter Monday. I'm your host, Jared, and joining me are Liam and Shane. How you going, Liam?
Good. No bank holiday here because we don't do Easter, but well, since I'm technically unemployed at the moment, every day's a holiday.
Yeah, living the dream. There you go. And how you going, Shane?
Yeah, good. Thanks, mate. Just want to say happy Easter to you and Liam, and obviously everybody tuning in. We get a couple of days off here, Liam, including
Nice.
today. But really enjoyed the Easter break, and it was a good chance to catch up with my folks for a bit of time. So yeah, really appreciated that.
Yeah, you never go wrong with getting a bit of a break. So yeah, happy days. All things considered, 4 days off, 3 days back this week. Friday off for Anzac Day. When one of my second favourite patch of the year every year for public holidays. If you're in Melbourne, where me and Shane are, my favourite public holiday every year is Melbourne Cup Day, because the fact that we get a whole day off work, paid and everything for a 3 minute long horse race is the best thing ever. So anyway, we'll get on to what we're up. So yeah, just before we get into the game against St Johnstone, the Scottish Cup semi, just want to take a moment and say R.I.P. Pope Francis. Yeah, what a guy. So just wanted to get that out the way. And yeah, unless you boys have got anything you want to add to that, we'll just crack on to the pod. So I just brought up some comments before that. So Heavy Vibes are saying, hail, hail, everyone. Enjoying my Easter hangover. Now, I had a question for you, Heavy Vibes. Do you guys have Cadbury cream eggs or the cream eggs over there? Because if you've got them, if everyone knows them, get that. If you can somehow manage to inject or get a bit of like the Baileys or something like that into it, it's the best thing ever. Sweet, chocolatey, you'll be on a sugar high, and then you'll be drunk. So happy days. But anyway, that's just what it is. We've got McLaughlin saying RIP Pope Francis. Brendan is saying, hail, hail, boys. Great win and a great performance. I hope we play like that, especially the next two games in the final. Empty Celts, Big Rab is saying, how guys, for the first time in months, I've got to tune in with work timings. Perfect, Big Rab. There we go. Thanks for tuning in. So, yeah, just overall, Celtic 5, St Johnstone 0. I said on Thursday's pod, starting lineup will be the same as it was the week before, and for once they actually got it right. Really was going for a bunch of changes. I'm like, nah, keep the same lineup. So, yeah, just want to get your thoughts on the starting lineup, Liam. So, obviously, it's Sinisalo in goals at the moment. And then, yeah, we've still got a little bit of time. Baino's on the bench, Bainzo, but you got Taylor, Scales, Carter Vickers, Johnson at the back. Now, is that the best back line you think we have at the moment with the players available, Liam?
I don't know if it's the best back line in terms of footballing ability, but I think it's the best that we've got at the moment to get the job done. It's the back line that Rodgers trusts the most, I think.
Yeah, 100%. That's how I feel as well. Like, I think probably there's better players, but Carter Vickers looks a lot more settled when he's got Scales alongside him.
Yeah.
He doesn't look like he's, on shaky legs there because Trusty's out of position or Schlupp's out of position and everyone's trying to cover. So I feel like Taylor with Scales inside him works better. Carter Vickers and Scales together works better. Come on, man.
Oh,
I just figured what I said.
that was Shane that triggered that there, not me. That was not on me.
Sorry.
Okay, let's try that again. A centre-back pairing of Scales and Carter Vickers, and on the outside of that, you've got Johnson giving shape and you've got Taylor there. It's a lot more settled. I think that back line works better. What do you reckon, Shane? Get your mind out of the gutter too, mate.
Sorry. Dear. I definitely think it's probably the back four that works as a unit cohesively the best. I can sort of take or leave Taylor and Schlupp a little bit. I definitely think I have Scales ahead of Trusty, so that's fine. And I think it's really down to me whether you sort of pick Taylor or Schlupp. And for me, I would probably still. I think Taylor's definitely done enough in the last 2 weeks that I would probably lean on him more than Schlupp at the moment. But that's probably the one position where I look at and go, maybe I could go with either of them. But the other three, absolutely. I think they've all shown that they're the best if that back four pairing, those three in particular.
So I'm going to go on a quick tangent now. We're talking about the left back situation there. You just mentioned Taylor and everything, and we're talking about that. Do you see the news that come out in the last 24 hours? Apparently, Dortmund has reached out to Barcelona to sign Alex Valle full-time next year.
Good for
Yet
him.
Greg Taylor was keeping him out of our team. Yet Dortmund smashed us in the Champions League. So figure that out. There's just weird. Anyway, we'll get that there. But heavy vibes are summing it up perfect with the centre-back pairing. Scales gives 100% every time, and he can head the ball.
Yeah.
And then
but I think... sorry to cut in, but I think what you said last week was really important. Both Carter Vickers and Scales walk taller when they play alongside each other. Carter Vickers, I think, reaches another level that he doesn't reach when Trusty's next to him. But likewise, Scales plays incredibly well next to Carter Vickers. We've already talked about long how Carter Vickers improves his half partner, but I think Scales makes Carter Vickers play an extra level. So they really do work together as a tandem. I don't think there's another duo that meet exactly what they do.
I think it's the sort as well where you look at them and go, both of them are like, all right, you put your head somewhere that it's not supposed to go. Cool. Watch this. Hold my beer. Now I'll go do it. and they're just trying to one up each other. So but you see, like Trusty gives me the vibes of big Chris Julian, like big guy, solid centre back, soft as shite in the air, like really bad. Like he should be absolutely clean and house with crosses coming in and just getting his head to things. And he's just Scales is better than him at that.
Yep.
And that's why he's in the team. Like in terms of footballing ability, Trusty is the better player. He's got a higher ceiling, in my opinion. But Scales is the one who actually does the 1%ers better. The things that get you in, make a difference to winning.
Yeah, that's actually really pretty much what it comes down to. And Scales will go and he will put his head in places where maybe he shouldn't, to be all honesty. He'll go and win that header. He'll be physical. His passing... Sorry, Liam.
I've got an Ace Ventura image in my head now, right? Sorry, keep going.
I think that he does exactly what you're talking about, the 1%ers and the physicalness, which Trusty doesn't seem to do. And I think there's a lot of times this season where we require that. And you look at Scales in the last 2 weeks, what's he doing? He does what he does best, which is he wins almost every header. He's physically imposing next to Carter Vickers. As a duo, they're hard to fold.
Scales simplifies the game for everyone. Let's be honest. Because he's got enough speed that he can cover for Taylor if he's inverted and out of position and get back there and contain. He's got enough size that he can get in there and just clear all the headers. So, yeah, it's just a nice one there. So I'll bring up some comments here. So Big Rab is saying, Empty Salts Big Rab is saying, Taylor and Scales add a lot more to the shape of the team than Trusty and Schlupp. On Schlupp, 2 good games. The rest, a waste of $30K a week for 6 months. Big Rab's also saying Valle wasn't ever wanting to stay with us. That's why he never got Taylor out of the team. And then Heavy Vibes are saying Scales carries the ball more as well. And you notice when Scales is in there, he'll go for a run. He won't just be like, I'll just tap it around, recycle it. If there's a space in front of him, he'll dribble into it and look to create something and get the ball to a winger. Instead of going to the midfielders, he'll drive into the middle, get the ball to a winger. Or he'll hit a ball. The lead up to one of our goals, Scales' ball through to Rio to Eder in this game that we'll get to is a perfect example of that. But then last week, Carter Vickers knows, okay, Scales will cover me if I go for a wander myself. And then he goes and puts the absolute howitzer of a shot into the top corner for goal of the year, in my opinion. So, yeah, these two just give each other the balance and everything. It's what we need. So
I'm taking credits for that Carter Vickers goal last week, by the way, because I wrote an editorial about 18 hours before it, slagging him off for his comments in the press conference, and I think, he he chose violence with that shot. So I think I'm taking the credit for that one.
So that his villain, origin story is that Liam wrote shit about him, so he's just gone out there.
Yeah.
Happy days. Middle of the park, it's pretty much like when we talk about the starting lineup, it's going to be McGregor, Engels, Satade. That lineup, that's our best midfield, gives us a balance, and any three of them can play. Each of them can play in two different positions. So if Calmack's out of position, Engels can cover the 6. If Atade is stepping forward into a 10, then you've got guys who can cover. So it just gives us the best balance we've got. And then up front, Ida starts as striker again. I said last week, I think he needs a full preseason under Brendan and to get used to playing as that target man with it being more central and not trying to, like, he's got the speed to make the runs, which is great to have, but he also needs to be able to be that like 9 where he gets the ball, holds it up and plays it off to his midfielders coming through or to his wingers. And we saw more of that from him in this game against St Johnstone, that he's starting to get the hang of things playing as that target man. We haven't played with that before, so with him in that role very often. So, yeah, I think him there and then Jamesy on the right, Dazen on the left. Nice team. So, what do you think with the forward lineup there, Liam? We know you're Mater's number one fan, but what do you think of having him back on the wing and having Eder in the middle?
Again, it's a question of what is the most effective team to get the job done. And I think having Dyson on the left is probably what we need right now, even though I think his best position is as a centre forward. And the fact that he plays on the left and still managed to score 2 yesterday kind of proves that he'll get the goals wherever you put him, as long as he's on the pitch. Yeah, and I was really, really pleased for Ida getting his goal yesterday. The only regret is that he didn't do a Ray Parlour style, celebration after he got the goal. That would have been perfect. But no, it was just good to see him get the goal and shut up a few of the critics in the media about him. Because his stats are lower than last season, but not by much. The actual number of minutes he's played to goals scored, the ratio is in the same sort of area. So this narrative that Ida's been a dud is just not, I'm not buying it. He's, he can improve. He will improve, but it's more down to Dyson just being completely out of this world this season that by comparison, Ida is made to look very ordinary.
And how many goals has Dyson scored this season as well, Liam?
Sorry, can we just block that Muppet in the comments there? I'm just seeing something that shouldn't be there.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, well, if we had a full season with Dyson at centre forward, I think you'd be looking at easily 40 plus goals. I think Larsson's 53 in a season would be under threat, legitimately.
Yeah, so I think he's at about 33, 34 goals, something like that. Yeah, so he's absolutely pinging them in.
Aye.
Yeah, I'm trying to block that idiot. But anyway, we'll
don't worry, I'll go back to his sister in a minute anyway.
Yeah, no. Go sniff some glue, whatever. So, yeah, Shane, just a general chat on the first half. What do you think? For me, it was pretty non-eventful for 25, 30 minutes and then just sprung to life.
I thought for the most part we were pretty good, even in that early 25 minutes. I thought we were actually playing pretty well. I thought we were moving the ball pretty well. I thought Hatate and Engels were getting the ball in some pretty dangerous areas, but there just seemed to be a bit of a disconnect between our front third and our midfield. It just felt like that final ball wasn't there. We didn't have any cutting edge about us, but we were still picking up the ball and shifting it quickly and trying to catch them out. Then, obviously, about 30 minutes in, then all of a sudden that changed and we were starting to get players in behind. Spacing was opening up and our front, the link up between our midfield and front three, in particular, Maeda and Ida, has started to really come to the fore, basically. And from that point forward, for the next 15 minutes, it was an unbelievable sort of storm, if you will, that St Johnstone just simply couldn't put up with.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that once we got our momentum going, we were just... Rio Hatate in particular was just on a different level yesterday. He was right in the mood, and it was plain to see that, I actually said to my dad during the game yesterday, I said, we've done more in like that sort of 5 minute spell and about half an hour in the first half than we did in the entire game against St Johnstone a couple of weeks previously.
Yeah, it was pretty funny how that all worked. Just like, it was weird because like I fell asleep before the game, and then I've looked at it and I'm like, oh crap. And then I've looked at the score and it's 0-0 at one point, and I'm like, oh yeah, whatever. Next thing I know, it's like this morning when I'm waking up and it's like 5-0. Sweet, called that.
Yeah, it's we're in the right place going into this cup final. And let's be honest, next weekend and the cup final are the only games that are of any relevance this season. We will have to play the cousin quarters at Ibrox at some point, but I really don't think it's of any consequence because, their club is dead. They're pathetic, and they are reduced to trying to take cheap shots at a dead man in the comments section of a Celtic podcast. That is the only thing they have left because they are so utterly pathetic, broken, and we own every aspect of them, and they will never forget it.
Get a life, mate. Seriously, you're watching a Celtic podcast and you're bagging a dead person and talking about sex abuse. You're a fucking pig, mate. Anyway, back to the game. So the first half goals, Liam, what was your thoughts on them?
Great. Callum McGregor's goal, he's been doing that all season, just breaking through shots, clinical, excellent. And I thought that Dyson's goals were, he'd been threatening for most of the game to do something because he'd just been that, the way that he is, where he's just a constant nuisance. Every chance of him stealing a ball, he was getting in and stealing it. And I just thought that is going to come off for him. And sure enough, it does. And yeah, we were completely commanding. We could probably have been, double that score by half time, in all fairness, because we were so once the first goal went in, St Johnstone were on damage limitation. That's the reality of it. And that's no harm to them. They tried their best. They defended really well, which is why it was only 5-0. But no, as soon as we got that first goal, there was only ever going to be one winner.
Well, after that first half an hour, we really turned the screw, and you could sort of see in the way that the goals unfolded just how much that was actually on show. You look at that first goal, that comes from a long clearance, which AJ gets his head on, and then it all flows from there. Hatate, I agree with what you were saying, Liam. I'm sure we'll talk about player focus individually later, but Hatate was at the centre of everything good we did, pretty much across all of the time that he was on the pitch, and obviously he has the assist for the Kalmak goal, which they just sit off, and you sit off Kalmak and let him sort of, take a touch and edge towards the box. Like, you're just asking for trouble, right?
You're inviting it.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It was just crazy. The second goal again, comes from, Ida. It was actually a wonderful ball from Carter Vickers straight down the middle of the park to Ida, who's made himself available, flicks it on to Kalmak, doing exactly what, Jared was talking about earlier, being that sort of centre forward dropping in, linking up with his midfielders. Lays it off to Kalmak. He puts that ball in behind for Dyson. The fullback did a good job of tracking the run. I think it was the fullback or one of their centre halves, but all he could really do was parry it into Dyson's path, and it's a lovely finish. The third goal was probably the pick of the goals in terms of the crisp passing. Scales with a wonderful ball to Hatate. And, he gets him in behind. Hatate, Ida's already on the move. As a good striker should be, he's already on the move when that ball goes to Hatate. He knows what's coming next. Hatate whips the ball across. It's a wonderful ball. All he has to do is tap it in. And then probably the most pleasing goal of the first half was the final one just before halftime, because of the fact that we pressed them immediately from the restart, right? We're straight on them. Hatate straight up. We're 3-0 up. The tie's effectively over, but we press them straight from we're a minute away from halftime, yet we still press them. Maeda forces the error. Guess who gets on the ball in midfield? It's Hatate. I thought maybe we'd miss the opportunity when he went forward, But he still did a good job of fighting Dyson. It's a lovely pass. And what I really appreciate about that goal was just the poise Dyson showed. Like that's the sign of a player just in unbelievable form. That ability to just that slight delay. He doesn't hit it. He waits for the space to open up. It's like he's assessing it at a slower rate than all of us are watching it, and then he just picks his spot, and it's a delicate finish. And I thought we were good for the first 45 overall, but that last 15 minutes from the 30th minute onwards was just fantastic football.
Yeah, sure was. And there was a comment here from Heavy Vibes amongst all the filth. 6 or 7 shots before our first goal, total football almost.
Yeah. Aye. As soon as it clicked, that was it. You knew that it was coming, and it was really. I honestly think that is our best performance, certainly since the turn of the year domestically, and up there with one of our best of the season. Possibly only away to Munich was better.
Yep, pretty much I'll agree with you there, Liam. So, second half, they're not going to be able to sit super deep because it's a cup game. So, yeah, the fact that they came out, and I'll give credit where it's due. Their goal, the one that they scored where Eder was fouled, I thought it was a bit of a soft foul, but it was a foul. But what a hit from that guy. That would have challenged Carter Vickers' goal of the week from the week before, except it was in a cup game. Yeah. But, yeah, some fair hit. And then, just overall, it's a pretty scary thing when you can get 60-odd minutes in and then you've got Jota and Kun coming on. It's almost as scary as, probably waking up, looking in your wardrobe and realising you have a bunch of Rangers shirts. It's probably the next scariest thing.
Or being a Rangers fan, waking up and your sister isn't there,
Anyway.
What was impressive about the second half is that even though we only scored one more, we didn't really let the foot off the gas either. I mean, we could have scored almost straight after half time. There was a wonderful ball across from AJ, which Eder he was just a fraction behind, and that could have been another tap in. That would have been 5-0 almost immediately on the resumption of play. But I think the main thing about the second half, obviously you talked about sort of Kun and Jota being able to bring them on in the 60th minute, right? What a luxury. I'm really glad that Brendan actually stuck with the same starting 11 that he did against Killy. It was obviously a necessary response to a poor performance at McDermott Park, and that team performed well against Killy. And it's good that the likes of Jota and Kun don't immediately command a return to the starting lineup. And Brendan says, no, you've really got to earn your spot. This is a squad. This is a team game. It's not just an individual. You've got to earn your place back in. And both of those players, both last week and this week, looked hungry again when coming on. And obviously Jota got his goal, which was fantastic. I think really the two talking points in the second half were really the goal that got chalked off for them. I'm glad you highlighted it, Jared, because it's a wonderful strike from Mackenzie Kirk. Like that's a cracking goal. In all honesty, that'd be worthy of goal of the week, potentially goal of the year anywhere, to be honest with you. It's a little bit of a pity it was chalked off, but it was a foul. And then obviously our penalty, which we got initially given, but then was waved away upon VAR review, which most certainly elicited a fair bit of debate.
That was actually the next thing I had on the thing to throw to, Shane. Before we get to player focus, was the James Forrest penalty, and the way I look at it, it's a bit of a doozy, really, when you look at it, because how do you look at this, right? If that was us the other way, I would have been probably screaming murder, going, "Oh, that's soft. That's not a pen," right? But then at the same time, so I've got to look at it from that point of view. But at the same time, I also have to get a look at it and go, if that foul was in the middle of the park and wasn't in the box, would VAR have got involved to overrule the referee's call? So how is it clear and obvious? So that's the way I'm looking at it. Like, if it was us conceding it, I would have been like, nah, not a penalty. But then I can't. So I'm a bloody walking contradiction on how I feel about that.
No, but the funny thing is, I totally agree with you, mate. That's the weird thing about it. That's exactly how it is. the whole thing, the fact that we are talking about it 24 hours later tells you that it wasn't a clear and obvious thing. So if the three of us can discuss it and probably have different opinions on it, and watching the post match on Axon last night, Sean had his own take on it as well, which was interesting. It's like, what do we, that's obviously not a clear and obvious error, because I mean, if four Celtic fans can't find a quorum on it, then what chance have the officials got?
Around some comments here quickly, Shane, before you jump into Heavy Vibes is saying Forrest got a slap in the face.
Yep.
Pegleg's saying we stepped it up yesterday. We need to repeat that when we go to Mordor in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then Empty Seltz is saying if there's a foul, it's a foul. It's a penalty. And that's the thing I was saying. Like, if it was in the middle of the park, VAR wouldn't have got involved. So, come on, Shano. I know how much you love VAR, so over to you.
Well, when I watched it live, I thought it was a pen. Like, I thought it was clear cut. I'll take it back slightly. It's a wonderful run from Forrest. It's a mazy run. I thought Forrest was fantastic all game, second week in a row. I love having him back in the starting 11. I think he provides a directness that a few wingers don't provide, particularly on the right in comparison to Kuhn. Anyway, wonderful run into the box. It looks like the centre half from St Johnstone come and impedes him. Definitely clips him in the face. It looked like a clear pen to me. Obviously, on the balance of being able to rewatch this at a more palatable time that isn't 1 a.m. and having a bit more coffee in the system, I've been able to watch it again a couple more times, and I agree it's light and it is a soft penalty, and I think you could argue it either way, in all honesty. But that's where I then come to what I think is a reasonable debate, which is what's VAR's remit here? So VAR's remit is meant to step in and correct clear and obvious errors, essentially, i.e. the howler. I can't look at that and go, that's a howler. Now, I'm not saying necessarily it should have been given a penalty. I think on review, I could easily see that being given either way. But you're meant to go and overturn that based on it being a clear and obvious error. I think, and this is 100% with the green and white specs as off and as far away as possible, I think there's a clear difference between the level of foul and obviousness in the foul between the Eder situation, where I saw that as a clear and obvious error, two-handed shove in the back, that's got to be overturned. The Forrest one, I think, had room for debate, and therefore it's not a clear and obvious error. So, in my opinion, the penalty should have stood. Now, I can understand people saying we got to the right decision in the end, and I'm not too flustered that we didn't get the pen from it in essence. But if you follow the system that's meant to be in place, that shouldn't have been overturned, in my opinion. And
that's what I think, Shane. But did we get to the right situation? Because green tinted specs on and everything, right? if I'm looking at this going, the referee, the VAR ref got involved and was basically getting in saying, oh, it was clear and obvious. Where's the clear and obvious thing in that, as you're saying, Shane? Because at the end of the day, that was not clear and obvious. It came down to referee's interpretation versus a VAR ref re-refereeing a game, a decision. That's what that was. VAR's not there to re-referee. It's there to offer guidance for something that is ridiculously, obviously wrong. Like the Eder situation, that was a clear foul. It was soft, but it was a clear foul. So that is clear and obvious because of the word I used, clear. And it was obvious. But in this situation, it's not. The referee, as Dominic's saying, the referee took a couple of seconds to award it. Maybe that created the doubt. But the key word you got there, Dominic, is doubt. If there's doubt involved, then that removes the word clear and obvious. It removes both of them because it's not obvious if there's doubt. It's not clear if there's doubt. So straight away, what that means is pretty simple, right? What that means is that the VAR ref should not be getting involved because it's a referee's opinion. He's taken a second, composed himself, and is like, yep, that's a foul. I'm going to give out a foul, penalty, because of where it is. The referee has taken his time and made a clear decision based on what they saw.
The only argument I could possibly make is that the ref didn't have a clear line of sight, and that watching it back on the VAR cameras, he saw something that maybe he didn't. But then that leads to the obvious statement of, well, why would you award it if you didn't have a clear line of sight? So you can lean on that and say, look, I got shown something on the vision that I didn't see. My vision was obscured. But then if your vision is obscured to that degree, you probably shouldn't be awarding the penalty in the first place. And then you're kind of relying on VAR to overturn it because you feel like you're just guessing. And that's what we don't want referees to do.
Now, the only reason I'm going as hard on this as I am, Shane, is we won the game 5-0. And if this was a game where we lost and we were going this hard, people would be saying it's sour grapes, you're a bunch of sooks, whatever, right? I want it to be operated correctly. If the referee is going to get decisions wrong, I get that. Players are going to misplace passes. Managers are going to get tactics wrong. We're going to say pish on a podcast and it's not going to make sense in a week's time, right? We all get that, right? It's part of the whole circle of life here. But the thing that frustrates me is if you get a referee jumping in, a VAR ref jumping in outside of their remit, that's an issue. I've got another issue from the game as well, having what I've seen and heard and everything, right? 2 VAR reviews second half, all those subs and a goal scored. 0 stoppage time. Figure that out.
Yeah, it was something that, again, kind of similar thought process to the penalty. I'm not really that flustered that we didn't get the penalty. I'm not really that flustered that we didn't have any added time. But if you're actually following on by the letters of the law and following the game itself, there should have been a significant amount of added time.
And the only reason I bring that up, Shane, is because what's to say we're in a cup final against Aberdeen at the end of the season. If it's 1-1 and it's about to go to extra time, it could go to extra time, and there's supposed to be all this, like 5 minutes of extra time given, and the referees just decide, no extra time's needed. No stoppage time's needed. We'll just go to extra time. Blow the whistle. And we've got the ball and we're dominating. How many times do we score a late goal? In the Angie era, we did it all the time. This team, we tend to do our work early and then cruise, right? But if we need it, you should be doing. It's not there for the refs to interpret and just be like, yeah, I don't want to play the stoppage time.
Yeah, we feel sorry for St Johnstone.
Yeah. If they came out and if the fourth official spoke to both gaffers and said, look, it's 5-5, do you want to play the extra time? And both managers are like, yeah, call it a day. Cool, that's fine. But come out and admit it.
You know, this is something where I think they should take the lead from the American sports. See, I know people are going to say, oh, you don't want football to last 3 hours like an American football game does. It says, but this idea that every time the ball's dead, they stop the clock, right? I honestly think we should do that. It would stop time wasting. It would stop that kind of cynical, let's just run the clock down type of play. And it would also completely eliminate controversies like this because there's 30 seconds to go because the clock says there's 30 seconds to go.
I got another one. I saw a video of a referee. I can't remember who he was. He's an old EPL ref, right? Actually, he's not that old. And he said if he could make any decision for referee, like for the refs, to stop time wasting, because it used to be the ball was average in play 42 minutes a game.
And
it's
now about 60, but it's still, yeah.
But he said the best thing, the rule he would love to be able to do to enforce it and stop time wasting and stop players crowding refs and stop, a goalkeeper taking 30 seconds, getting yellow, wasting another 15 seconds, and then getting the kick into play to restart it would be, all right, you've got a 10-second clock or an 8-second clock to get the ball in. If you're taking the goal kick and you don't kick it within 8 seconds, it's a corner. If you've got a corner and you don't put your ball in within 8 seconds, it's a goal kick. If you've got a throw and you're trying to pick it up and throw it in and you run the sideline 20 meters and you get waved back, blown whistle, go back, and then you go back 1 step and then go forward 3 or 4 more, hand it over, opposition's throw in. That'll stop all that bullshit. I actually like that idea. It does give the refs a bit of power and certain ones who can go on a power trip, but it's going to stop that sort of thing.
But that's like, don't they have something like that in rugby where, like, if the players are harassing the referee, they can actually move the ball back another 10 yards or something like that?
Yeah,
Like,
in rugby league, there's a penalty so that if you mouth off to the referee and you're not the captain, penalty against your team.
yeah.
Turn it over. Yeah, so there's ways around it, but yeah, I don't know. There's just a whole bunch of things there. So what we'll do, second half goals, Jota's goal was fucking absolute cracker. Like that cross coming across was
That cross
amazing.
was a
from Johnson.
thing of beauty, honestly.
I reckon it's only
Hanging-
topped by the finish.
I don't
Like,
even know what the goalkeeper was supposed to do there. Like if you look at it, I watched it from 3 different angles trying to figure out how did he get the ball past him? Did he go near post? Did he go through his legs? Did he go over him? I couldn't figure it out the first 3 times. 3 times I watched it. And I'm like, I still can't figure it out. Where did the ball go?
It was
So
magic.
it just teleported through him.
Just teleported into the net. The keeper had no idea.
Created
He hit.
Yeah, go
Sorry,
on.
mate. You go. No, you go.
Okay.
Well, the reason I say that it's probably that the finish probably eclipses the cross in terms of quality is because it was just he hits that at such pace, that half volley, right? Like he's got no ability to get any control of the ball. He's steaming in at that ball coming in, and it's such a delicate finish that you and I still don't know exactly how it got past the keeper, but within an instant the net rippled and we're celebrating a fifth.
I was just talking nonsense, Shane, when you jumped in with a serious thing. That's why I'm like, no, go on. You go on. I'm just going to talk absolute shit here. Yeah.
That is a rare change of kind of position from you and I, because dynamics is usually I'm talking absolute pish.
Normally you're the one waffling on and I'm the one just like looking around the room like, get on with it, Shane. What's the point?
Looking for Liam for backup.
Liam's too busy just looking at memes and trying to come up with some pun or a dad joke.
Hey, all of my dad jokes are original. They were that's what they were when I found them.
Yeah. So just player focus, boys. Anyone you want to touch on in particular? Talk about any players?
I know who Liam's probably going to talk about, so I'm gonna leave that for him. I wanted to give shout out to Jamesy Forrest. I already have a bit earlier, but I've just really appreciated his work coming back into the lineup. I thought he was fantastic against Killy. I thought he was fantastic again against St Johnstone. And what I really love about him is his directness. When he gets the ball, he looks to make something happen. Whereas Kun likes to cut inside and it'd be a bit of that tricky winger. With Jamesy, you get him and he's looking to either run straight into the box or make a run to the byline and put a cross in. Sometimes football, and you said, I think you said this in the comments, sometimes football is a simple game, right? You know, you get the ball in, you get it in quick and fast, and you know what can happen. And Jamesy provides that as a winger, and I've really loved the contrast that he's provided since coming in to the starting lineup in comparison to Kun.
Thing with I'm going to go back one from where you were with your one. I'm going to let Liam wrap this up, the player focus. We'll hold on one each. I want to go to Alistair Johnson. What I love about his performance is he's got a different type of winger in front of him the whole game. At the start, he's got that really direct guy, Jamesy, who's sticking wide and trying to stay wide. So what's he doing? Johnson is going more inverted into that channel around the edge of the 18-yard box, and he's just running up and down and keeping that spot manned and Marshall there and giving the sideline and the byline to the winger, to Jamesy, to go and be direct and do his thing, right? Then when Kun comes on and he likes to get wide and come back in, Alistair Johnson can switch his game completely and go to play an out-and-out like fullback, where he's hugging the sideline and he's running up and he's putting that cross into Jota from getting sideline to the byline, getting that cross in. So that is a quality player. Most fullbacks, they can either play really well as an inverted or in that keeping it tight, or they're really good just bombing up and down, but you can't get both. The fact that we got a guy there in Alistair Johnson who can play both of them at an equally impressive standard within the same game, we have an absolute class act there, and get him a new contract, get him here long term. Long may he be in the hoops. What a talent.
That's such a great shout. That was so noticeable against St Johnstone. That's absolutely great shout.
You win 5-0, Shane. Everyone's going to be looking at the front, and I'm looking at that. Not all here.
No, in fairness, though, to a lesser extent, I think Greg Taylor did equally well down the left as well. He and, he was able to cover that wide area that allowed Maeda to go closer to the centre, particularly for his first 2 goals. That was...
And then when Jota comes on, he ducks in more invert and gives Jota the width to do his thing. So, yeah. Same deal again.
Aye.
Brendan, you're coaching them well. That's all I got to say. I'll put on the players, done the job, but the gaffers must be doing something right if he's got the balance there too. Liam, your player focus. Oh, sorry, Shane, jump in.
I just wanted to go. I don't want to steal anything from Liam. I just want to go really quickly, and hopefully I'm not stealing one from Liam.
No,
I just
go
want
ahead.
to give Adam Eder a quick shout out as well, because I thought he came on to a really good game. I thought initially he kind of encapsulated that disconnect between the front third and midfield, seemed to really isolate it, but he really worked himself into that first half and the rest of the game really well, and he became that focal point that you want your number 9 to be. He was dropping deep to get on the ball, link up with the midfielders and the wingers. He was hustling back towards goal. He obviously gets the goal from that assist from Hatate. He's involved in the second goal for Maeda. I thought he came onto a really good game. And as Liam was saying earlier, he's had a lot of critics recently. And I think in some regards, rightly so. I think some criticism has been warranted. But this was another good reason for Brendan sticking with the starting lineup the way it was, because Eder needs to get some consistency. He needs to get some continued starting 11 spots, play a bit more. And I'm glad Brendan stuck with that, because it gives him an opportunity to build up that continuity. And he came on to a really good game. So shout out to Adam Eder.
And Liam?
Yeah. I would second that. Eder was great. But Rio Hatate is the one I want to talk about, because he just 3 assists, completely commanded the midfield. Looked confident, looked sharp, looked like he was enjoying his football. It's great to see. Last week and this week has arguably been the 2 best games he's played in months, and it's really, really encouraging to see that. I don't know if he's going to be here next season or not. I hope he is, but performances like that are why we signed him, and that is the type of player that we know he can be. And the only issue is getting him to do that consistently. He does that in a fortnight's time at the over at the Death Star, and we are looking at another 4 or 5-0 win. I tell you,
can't wait. It's going to absolutely destroy him. So yeah, it was just man of the match, Rio Hatate. Anyone got anyone else they want to say? If Maeda had got his hat trick, he would have come into the mix. But yeah, it was Rio Hatate for me.
Calmac a very close second. Rio for me, but Calmac, who we didn't comment on, I thought he was back to being that midfield fulcrum that we so know and love.
It's funny how we get a few games into him, get a settled midfield, and suddenly our speed of play is starting to ramp up the last few weeks, and that's something we've been wanting all season. So it's good to see the guys are getting some fresh legs. So let's move along from there. Name the episode. Boys will be boys, based on a Kelmac quote talking about Adam Eder going to the pub during the week, getting pissed off his ass midweek. So my comment is pretty simple. Adam Eder should head to the boozer more regularly if he's going to play like that. Because the way he played in St Johnstone, the work rate, the positioning, staying more central and working his socks off in that game, that's what we need to see from him. So if that means he's got to go to the pub for a few cans during the week, so be it.
I'm not really across this story, so I only came into this late. As long as nothing untoward happened and he just got a bit pissed and that was it, I don't really have many concerns.
He didn't get his dick out. It's okay.
That's good. That's comforting to know. But I think it doesn't. From what I've heard. And I've heard this in piecemeal fashion. It just sounds like he sort of overindulged, and maybe he was a bit of a colourful character, but that was it. And you could argue that maybe he's not representing the club or being an upstanding citizen and so forth. Okay, but I think it's a minor situation from what I've understood. But I just want to give Brendan a shout out, because I think it would have been very easy for Brendan to cave into a bit of pressure, a bit of external noise, and say, you know what, you've lost your spot. You've lost your spot in the starting 11. But clearly, Brendan has assessed the situation and said, no, I want to stick with you. And I'm going to show faith in you. And Eder returned that in kind. He put in a performance.
Let's look at it this way, Shane. Who was leading the line for Brendan for all those years he was at Leicester? Have a chant. Jamie Vardy's having a party because he's a pisshead who comes to games, smashes some coffees, Red Bulls, has a dart, and then goes out there and absolutely cuts sick.
Chat shit, get banged.
Exactly. Rodgers doesn't mind a maverick sort of player here and there. And if this is what it's going to take for Eder to perform, then so be it. Can't all be those boys at the tuck shop, no sauce on your food, and then, you lose the room. Chris Commons' complaints about Ronnie Dahlia coming in, remember?
Mhm.
I want sauce for my chicken nuggets. That's what he said. Me too, mate. Me too.
I forgot all about that. It's reminiscent of a former AFL coach here. I won't go into detail. Who's very serious about sort of player management, and he supposedly wouldn't let players on a 2-hour flight eat a biscuit.
So many comments I can make here, but context. I got the channel in a bit of trouble, so I'll behave myself. So Greg Taylor is rumoured to be close to signing a new 3-year deal at Celtic. What are your thoughts on this, Liam?
Well, the important thing is that it's not happened yet, right? There were a few sites, a few papers, whatever, yesterday running the story that it was a done deal. It's not, right? It looks like it's going to happen. If I had to put a bet on it, I would say yes, Greg Taylor will sign this muted 3-year extension, but I don't. It's not confirmed yet, and that's where we just need to. Everyone just needs to stay a wee bit calm with it, because the only source for this story so far is a Facebook page, albeit it is one of the more popular Facebook pages for Scottish football, not prone to just bullshitting, but it is at the end of the day still a Facebook page, and that's not a valid news source yet. But wait and see.
I'll go off on a little bit of a tangent. I spoke to someone over here, happens to be on the board at a certain former Mark Viduka's former club over here, okay, Melbourne Knights, right?
Right.
I know someone on the board there, and long story short, he's got a relative on the board at Zagreb where Taylor was going to sign, and apparently the deal was all agreed. Then they sacked the manager, and suddenly it's opened back up again. So there could be something in this, Liam, but as far as I was concerned 2 weeks ago, I was being told from someone filtering it through to me from the Zagreb side that it was pretty much done. All he had to do was put his name on the paper. So I think two things have happened. One, the coach being sacked a massive issue, and two, Brendan has played an absolute blinder here. He's bringing Tierney back. He's going to be on big bucks, right? On top of that, that Taylor's wanting, 24 grand, 25 grand a week he was being rumoured to be wanting, and the club doesn't want to pay that for a backup. Brendan has played a blinder by bringing Schlupp in as a back, who's basically now become a backup to Taylor on 30 grand a week. So bringing Schlupp in to start, and then the fact now that he has been beaten out for that spot again by Taylor is showing the board, if you're paying 30 grand a week, you're not getting a better player than what we've got here. Pay the man his money. So Brendan has played an absolute blinder here. He's played chess while the board's playing checkers, and this is just perfect the way it's all played out.
See, what I also read into that is that it means that hopefully Brendan himself is also planning to stick around a bit more, because that's legacy planning. If he's thinking that far ahead as to who he wants as his two left backs for the next 3 years, that tells me he's thinking he might still be here in 3 years.
Yep, 100%. Shane's got some comments. I can see him getting ready to blurt them out every time me and Liam have said something.
Sorry.
So I'm deliberately waffling here to make him wait longer.
That's all right. I've had my fill. I've had my quota. No, Brendan very outwardly clearly wants Taylor to sign on and stay. He's made that very clear in almost every media press conference, particularly in the last week. He clearly sees Taylor as someone he wants around for a number of years to come. So I agree with Jared. I think the way it's panned out has made it look quite clear that Taylor's an option that the board should consider re-signing to onto a new deal. And I think Taylor would stick around. And I think it makes sense because we've long talked about Tierney coming back, but Tierney won't play, obviously, all the fixtures. We need a suitable backup that can step in, someone that can play a couple or where needed, someone that can be that deputy, and Taylor could easily fit that role. I think we've seen the best of him in the last couple of weeks, and I think we've seen the best of him because he's playing much more of that kind of inverted role and seems to be playing that a bit better than he was before. And I don't think we have anyone that most certainly I haven't seen the same from Schlupp. So Taylor's much better at that role than Schlupp is, and most certainly was much better at that than Via. I felt like Via was here. We were much better at keeping our width. But yeah, if we can keep him around, he's most certainly an able deputy to Tierney and someone that we could easily start in the premiership each week, and I wouldn't be too concerned.
There's another thing here, Shane, as well. What position's Tierney been playing at Arsenal the last few weeks? He's been playing on the wing.
Yeah, exactly. He's been left winger.
So what that's showing is if Dazen's moving into striker and to play that more regularly next season, and you've got Jota on the left and you need someone to back him up, you can either put Eder in at striker like we saw on the weekend and put Maeda back on the wing, or you can keep Maeda in the middle, you can put Tierney there, and then you need someone behind him in Taylor who can play games. So it's not just the forward planning of these are my two fullbacks for the left backs for the next 3 years. It's also, okay, we know Brendan loves his players to be multi-positional. It's the chess game of, okay, this player can go here and here and here. And when this happens, this player goes to that role. It's unbelievable, the level of and detail of planning. When you sit there and actually work it out like that, it just makes too much sense for Taylor not to go. And we've got some comments here. So Heavy Vibes are saying, be a crime to let Taylor go get him signed. And then Pegleg saying, Taylor stays or goes, I'm not bothered. I think Taylor is a lot better than probably what we'll have. So I'd rather keep what... Sometimes you're better off with what you know.
It would cost a lot more than 20 to 25 grand a week to get anybody any better, put it that way.
Unless, Liam, and this is a perfect segue, the PFA Scotland Team of the Year was announced. 7 Celtic players in the lineup, 2 Huns, and one from Dundee United, one from Hearts. So I'll go through the lineup. Casper in goals, Alistair Johnson, Cameron Carter-Vickers. John Suter somehow made the team. Is that like...
That's just for comedy value.
I was going to say, the work experience kid, you got to list his name somewhere. And then at left back, we're talking about that. So if Taylor was to leave, James Penrice, get him in.
Yeah.
Do a lot worse than getting him in. And if you can still play Tierney in the exact way we were just talking about there. Middle of the park, Raskin, McGregor, Hatate. That's not the best Belgian midfielder in Scotland, so in the PFA Team of the Year. And then up front, Kun and Maeda and Sam Dalby at Dundee United. So I found that quite amusing. 7 of our blokes in there. Happy days.
Aye. Good for diversity and inclusion to see 2 Huns in there as well,
You've been...
Go on, Shane.
You've been really strong on Penrice for a while. So, this is further fuel to that fire of, he is a quality player that maybe we should be looking at bringing on board if Taylor does go.
There's 2 in Scotland I'd look at. Penrice, Jack McKenzie at Aberdeen. He's a big left back. He's like a Lustig type of left back in terms of height, size, everything. Could possibly sign him. And then that allows Johnson to bomb on more, or Tierney to bomb one more if he's there, and then you can go back 3. If you want to play with wing backs, you could bring him in along with Scales and Carter-Vickers, or Trusty and Carter-Vickers or whatever, and then you can go with wing backs and go like a 3-5-2 or whatever if you wanted to do that. So those guys give you that versatility. Just saw this headline and I'm like, no! Celtic loan flop heading back to Parkhead in the summer after £3.5 million star makes 2 league starts for new club. Who we're talking about here?
Is this Haksabanovic?
Nope. This is Lewis Palmer. Where are you, Robert Gibson?
Shout out, Robert.
Haven't seen you in the comments saying Palmer's a wanker for a while, so I had to throw that in there.
You got to come back, Robert, now.
Yeah. So there's two last things I want to talk about on the pod here. So Celtic have basically made a complaint to the SPFL about price gouging by Dundee United for our possible title clinching match at Tannadice this weekend. So Dundee United are offering their fans a $10 bring a friend ticket. At the same time, they have upped our away ticket, which is usually £34 a game, to £42 a game to attend. Now, rule it's I-31 of the SPFL guidelines states clubs are prohibited from charging higher admission prices to accommodation designated for supporters of the visiting club than for broadly comparable accommodation designated for the use of supporters of the home club at the same match. So basically that's saying that you can't charge more for the away fans than the home. Well, look what they've done. Celtic's statement has said the ticket arrangements for our forthcoming premiership match against Dundee United can confirm we've raised a number of concerns to the SPFL. Now, the prices, how they've split it, I'll give you the rundown. Dundee United said our top 6 campaign kicks off with a huge lunchtime clash against Celtic at Tannadice. With another important 3 points in line, Dundee United season ticket holders can bring a friend for £10 as part of our season ticket holder benefits to our joust with Celtic and bring the noise to Tannadice. As a thank you for your incredible support, we're offering this special deal to help fill the stands and keep the atmosphere electric. Now, the upper tier of the pricing is season ticket holders bring a friend for £10, available for adults and concession. Adult tickets, 42 quid. Concession, 25. So that's what our guys have got to pay. Then if you want to go the other pricing, you're looking at 40 quid and for this of different areas, and then you've got a 23 quid for concession and £15 under 12 tickets. So your $10 bring a friend is still cheaper than all the 3 others in their lower end of the pricing. So in my opinion, that's just pure price gouging. That's them knowing, oh, Celtic could win the league here, so we're going to absolutely rip them. What are your thoughts on that, Shane?
It's very petty, isn't it? Really, when you think about it, they know that we're going to pack our away allocation because it's a chance for us to wrap up the league and kickstart a party. So, yeah, I just think the way I describe it, they obviously know that that's going to sell out, and they're trying to make a bit of extra coin. It's just really petty, really.
Before I go to you, Liam, I agree with what you're saying there, Shane. The issue for me is I'm disappointed in Dundee United. I understand why they're doing that, right? I get it. I understand what they're trying to do. But you're supposed to be one of the good guys. That club was originally Dundee Hibernian. The three Celtic-based clubs, Celtic, Hibs, Dundee United, those are the three. They're the 3 good guys in the league. Yet they're doing that to us. Piss poor. Liam, over to you, mate.
Well, this doesn't happen in the J League because over here we have the same prices for every team in the league. There are different tiers of tickets that start as low as 3,000 yen, which is about 12 quid, and go as high as 8,000 yen, which is about 40 quid. And basically those are the set prices for every team in the league. And unless you accept that pricing structure, you're not allowed to play in the top flight. So every team signs up to that, and that's reviewed annually, and all the clubs agree what is a fair price for every single fan of every club, regardless. That is what we need in Scotland, because clubs are just taking the piss with this far too often. It's Dundee United this week. It will be another team next week. It will be, whoever Celtic or Rangers are playing tend to do this quite routinely. And it just needs to stop. It needs to stop. I don't want to sound arrogant and condescending here, but at the end of the day, Scottish football would be nothing without the money Celtic and Rangers fans put into it. So don't bite the hand that feeds you.
I was reading today, Liam, how much Celtic and Rangers is putting into the coffers for the other clubs through the parity payments for European. So we're just from competitions before tickets and everything, we earned like 28 million just from our group stage thing. They've done about 12.5 million that way, right? So the parity payments come from that as a percent. So if you're looking at going, there's 40 million pound coming in, every club in the league's getting at least 400 grand, at least, because of what we did in Europe, because of what the Huns did in Europe in the group stage, not even the knockouts. That doesn't get split after that in knockouts, from what I could understand. But each and every one of these clubs is getting 400 grand, which is probably the equivalent of 4 starting first team level players for some clubs in this league. That's the equivalent of paying a player 2 grand a week. So, which is a top star for them. So at the end of the day, don't bite the hand that feeds you, but also I love the idea, the whole 20s plenty sort of thing they had back in the day for football tickets. I think it's a rip-off. And even here in the A-League, and I'll go to you, Shane, is I haven't been to an A-League game in a while, right? But I remember when I went, season ticket prices, there was 2 tiers of games. There was the derbies, so whenever Melbourne Victory played Melbourne City or Adelaide or Sydney, they were their 3 main rivals. When you played those teams, if you wanted a general admin ticket, it was more expensive. It was like $5 more expensive. That was it across the normal tickets. So it was like you're saying, Liam, there's a range of $20 through to $40 a ticket, right? And then when in the derbies, you're paying an extra $5 a ticket. That's it. So that's all it was. And everyone was in the same boat. This is an absolute joke. But I want to get your thoughts on it, Shane.
Well, I don't know what it's like now, really, in terms of buying GA tickets. I know when I used to sort of go to the A-League before, I'd sort of signed up with a season ticket, if you will. We call it memberships over here, but it's a season ticket. It used to be about $20 each game, and you're right, there was a slight increase for sort of either derby matches or, you know, what they would deem bigger fixtures, you know, particularly when Ange was in charge of Raw and things like that. I think the pricing has kind of been a little bit more manipulated, but I say that without knowing full well. So I pay, you know, a couple $100 for my season ticket at the start of the year, and then that gives me access into every game. In terms of away games that we play here, Victory fans do tend to get a little bit stung with pricing, particularly from our Melbourne City neighbours. They tend to stick us. What they try and do here to build the sort of active support is they usually have general admission and active support, so where you can actually stand and watch the game and sing and chant, are usually across the board the same fee. But I've noticed recently that those prices have differed, and it actually costs you a bit more to actually be in an active area. And a lot of those away teams are essentially using that as a way to kind of stifle the Victory away support. So in some regards, there are some parallels with what I'm seeing here. And yeah, it's really disappointing. I think the one way that you get more people to the football, and with here, it's about getting visibility and people involved. I think the one way that you can break into the market is making sure that your pricing's reasonable. And if you don't do that, you are going to turn people away. Now, in Scotland, it's a little bit different. You have that rusted on, locked in support for people who love the sport and love the team. They're going to fork out that money. And that's why Dundee United have done it. They know people are going to pay that extra coin because this is going to be when Celtic probably lift the title. Or should I say secure the title? Sorry, it's not trophy day. And it's disappointing. And it's just really petty. And I just wish clubs wouldn't actually do that and actually be fair, particularly in today's day and age where pretty much most of the world is struggling financially.
Yep. So Heavy Vibes is saying here, petty but can't blame him. It's a cash grab. He's also saying if that's true, then the other clubs really are leechers. Pegleg Lonigan is it's all about the dollars. And I was going to end it with a quote from a certain person before he became a baby oil aficionado, from a singer by the name of Puff Daddy, had a song called "It's All About the Benjamins." I was going to say that for a laugh, just so I could check in a baby oil mention for Liam.
No, hey, not a good time, Jared. Not a good time right now.
Oh, God.
Hopefully you got that reference, Jared.
Oh.
Anyway, so
Anyway.
Liam, I need to know, what's the latest on the Rangers takeover by the San Francisco 49ers? Just give us something.
Well, I'll give you a quote from today's Sun, right? Do not read The Sun, everybody. I do it so you don't have to. So
bastard.
it says here that there's been a major breakthrough, right? There's been a major breakthrough. And it says all that is left now is for the legal and financial stuff to be taken care of. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, that's the entirety of doing a business deal, is it not?
Pretty much.
So, in other words, we are no further forward than we were in February when this nonsense first appeared in the press.
I saw something else as well. Yeah, it's the fake over. But what I saw, Liam, was a bit of a funny one where it said the 49ers had to. Basically, the 49ers aren't the ones buying it. There's some other bloke who's using the 49ers enterprises as his funding to get it, so that he can then source 51% of the shares and all future shares. So basically, if he is to do that and get a loan so that he can buy it off the 49ers, then what happens is that money, Rangers fans are thinking, oh yeah, we're going to be cashed up. We're going to be able to spend all this. Yeah, but your owners are investors. They're going to want a return because they have to pay someone back. Unlike you guys who don't do that at the moment. You just write more directors' loans and just turn into more shares with some paper confetti, basically. So what these guys are saying is, oh, the 49ers are going to fund it, and he's figured out how to do that. But now it's just, as you're saying, Liam, that's where that quote come into it, is that he's got to spend they've got to then get the legal side done so that they can sign it up and blah, 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 and finances. I'm like, mate, you done nothing. This is fucking hilarious. I'm loving it.
You know, it's like me saying, you know, I'm going to shag Kylie Minogue tomorrow. The only thing stopping me is the fact that she doesn't know who I am and I have no idea where she is, you know.
French Island, Liam. There you go.
Aye, but you know, that's the level of ridiculousness we're talking about here. But I should thank them because it has given me plenty to write about. So long may it continue.
Strange Love the Doctor has got it. So as far as the PR and reporting is covered, the fake over has 100% coverage. However, the actual takeover is currently at 0% completion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So what I'm going to do to finish off the pod is I'm going to bring up comment here. So from John Hutchison, Liam, I'm really enjoying your stuff on Axon, comrade. Keep it up, brother.
Thanks, John. It's an honour. It is an honour to be able to write for you all. And thank you.
John's a top bloke. So, yeah, what we'll do is we'll go to our final thoughts to just any random absolute stuff we want to say. I almost dropped some swear words in Serb then, and I thought you guys won't understand it. So, yeah, we'll just go with the final thought to wrap it up. So, I'll go first. I mentioned wrapping it up. That Hunter was in the comment. His dad should have wrapped it up. Shane?
Quick shout out to Brisbane band Ballpark Music. They've been announced as the supporting act for Oasis when they tour Australia later in November. I'm not really familiar with Ballpark Music, so I'm going to take the next sort of couple of days to get familiar with their back catalogue. I'm sort of partway through their second album. Very interesting music, but I'm big on Australian music, so I thought I'd get their name out there. And if anyone's at all keen to check them out, they're called Ballpark Music. And so far I'm liking what I'm hearing.
Hey Shane, I got this obscure band for you. They're called Yothu Yindi.
Oh, what a great band. I love Yothu Yindi. And I love the fact that King Stingray have relatives from Yothu Yindi. Anyway, I could get into Australian music. I better stop.
And Liam?
Well, I've been trying to think of what to say. So what I would say is one last thought on the Rangers takeover. If by some miracle this does happen, here's a wee statistic. Leeds United, who are owned by the same group, posted a loss of 76 million last week. And they have consistently posted losses for all but one of the last 10 years. So do not worry. Even if this mob get control of the Huns, there isn't going to be a sugar daddy. This is a distressed asset. They are going to buy, drain, and then flush. So good times are coming.
Flush them down the loo. Thanks, everyone. Hail, hail.
How?